Good morning, church. It's good to be with you here today on this snowy day. Kind of a surprise, but everything seems to be going well so far. Of course, if you find yourself in a situation, don't hesitate to reach out or leave a message here. We'll be happy to help however we can. Well, today I want to talk about Luke 18 and the parable of the persistent widow. And this is just so interesting, this comment on prayer that Jesus makes, how we should interact with God in some ways. And it's just very fascinating. So let's get right to it. Now, he told them a parable on the need for them to pray always and not give up. There was a judge in a certain town who didn't fear God or respect people. And a widow in that town kept coming to him, saying, "Give me justice against my adversary." For a while he was unwilling, but later he said to himself, "Even though I don't fear God or respect people, yet because this widow keeps pestering me, I will give her justice, so that she doesn't wear me out by her persistent coming." Then the Lord said, "Listen to what the unjust judge says. Will not God grant justice to his elect who cry out to him day and night? Will he delay helping them? I tell you, he will swiftly grant them justice. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?" So, if we are to take the role of this persistent widow in what she does, she goes and pesters the judge day and night, seeking justice. And even though the judge is not interested in justice, he gives in. Now, we know that that is not a comment on the nature of God as the judge, but rather a comment on us and how we ought to be engaging. Will not God grant justice to those who cry out to him day and night? What is our prayer life like? When we are seeking God's will and his favor on something, do we throw up a prayer? Are most of our prayers Nehemiah-like? Not condemning this type of prayer, but when Nehemiah was the cupbearer to the king and he heard about the wall being in disrepair and he was in total distress and he is grieving even as he hands the cup to the king. It was very dangerous to be sad in the king's presence, and the king notices that Nehemiah is sad and says, "Hey, you're sad. This is not an illness, but a sickness of the heart. What's the matter?" And Nehemiah throws up a prayer to God. "Oh, God, help me." And God supplies him favor with the king. But that should not be the habit of our prayers. We are not always in that kind of immediate crisis situation. Rather, the habit of our prayers should be like Daniel when he went up 3 times a day to his room and he prayed to God, whether it would get him in trouble or not. He was in prayer regularly before God. And are we bringing our petitions to God regularly, consistently, multiple times a day, pleading for him, seeking his grace and his mercy? Because as a father, I believe God often wants us to demonstrate the sincerity of what we're asking for. For those parents listening, we can readily relate to this. If our children ask for something rather offhandedly once and then never mention it again, we're often inclined to think, well, they didn't really want it that bad. But when our kids ask for things day after day, multiple times a day, we quickly come to understand that it really is the desire of their heart. And I believe God is in that same way, as if we remember that we're actually asking for things and desiring these things, then we know, God knows, that this is the desire of our heart. And especially when we're crying out for things that are already in God's will, for justice, for the salvation of the lost, for support for the needy. So that's the prayer admonition. But look at what Jesus says. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth? The question Jesus is asking is, will I find anybody like this when I come? Will there be anybody petitioning? We think back to Ezekiel. God was looking for someone to stand in the gap and to pray for justice for the people, to intercede between them and God. And God said, I didn't find anybody at that time. And will it be like that now? So that's the challenge, church. We have a mantle to take up, a mantle of prayer, a mantle of intercession for our country, for the lost, for our brothers and sisters in need, for the perseverance that it takes to walk through this life every day. So pray, church. Let's be a praying people, and let's take up Jesus' challenge that he might find us faithful when he comes. Amen.